Good evening, everyone. Such a pleasure being here tonight. I'm usually in another room, involved in other activities. I'm so glad to be here, especially at this time of the year, right? When we are almost over with 2018. Many challenges, many joys for many of us, many trials, right? But before we start, we have to think about the gift of life, right? Although this year may have been rough for many of us, or maybe with more blessings and, more like happier moments than, difficulties, we have to always think about the gift of life, the opportunity of being alive, the opportunity of, even though I've been through different situations that I didn't expect many of times. Here I am in 2018 and December, 13 today? Wow, good thing it's not tomorrow, right? It'll be Friday 13. Ooh, I wouldn't be here. So, can anyone give me a definition? What is a courage or a courageous person? Any thoughts? Yes, right. Anyone can give me a hint what it could be a courageous person?
Is the will to press forward even though you don't yet see the light or you have the challenges in front of you.
Yeah, that could be it. And anything else? What about attitude? What attitude means to some of you? What do you think about it? I mean, don't worry about dictionary definition. What the first word that comes to your mind? What's attitude?
Position on life.
Yeah, your position in life. You're driven and. Well, I did this lecture once, and somebody told me something really curious that I went home and I'm like, you know what? This makes total sense. A courageous person should be someone that knows themselves. Well, I would say that a courageous person, whoever knows himself or herself already, it's beyond courage, right? Because it is harder to find the courage to know ourselves. Everybody has to think about this a little bit, right? So the individual who we are talking about of a higher evolved spirit, let's put our model like Christ, that knows himself, knows all his strength, knows everything that he is. He's beyond courage. But we are still in that level of finding out what is courage in my life, what is having attitude, what is taking some action. So let's see what the message will tell us today. If I find our little device. If I don't, if it doesn't work, you guys bear with me. We are going to make it happen. Yes, it does. So let's see what the dictionary, regular definitions that we see out there, what they said to us. Courage can be considered a moral energy when we are facing difficult situations. So it's not necessarily that person that breaks walls, the very, wild man and strong that can, conquer everything. Well, there is to be a spiritual strength that is always related to being a courageous person. So by looking at that, we can start finding ourselves, am I courageous or not, right? Sometimes I am, sometimes not so much. So what is the attitude, like our friend said? So it's a disposition, it's a behavior, the action, how we put ourselves in life. Right? The decision, determination, the purpose, is a will, is intention. So all this counts towards our attitudes. Sometimes we confuse attitude with somebody that is active. Well, not necessarily somebody that is really hyperactive, that wanted to do everything and wanted to do it all the time. It's somebody with attitude. Many times this person leaves everything unfinished. Many times this person has no focus in life, cannot, focus in one thing, and many times is trying to what? To rush around and going away from certain situations with an excuse of, I had my hands full, I have attitude. No, what we are doing is like having actions all over the place, plans, purposes, and goals, and we are not able to finish anything, right? So the attitude doesn't need to be too much. It's as simple as a behavior, as a decision. When we are determined to do something, right? And to manifest, to have an intention of something, to have a will inside us, all this is attitude. Not necessarily related to a movement that we do with our bodies. It's always with our minds. If anybody can just help me out with the light so they can see better here. So this lecture, just for us to start our journey here of learning this topic, it's based on the self-love and other soul powers by André Moreira and Dias da Cruz, which is the spirit, and in the book of Joanna de Angelis, Self-Discover an Inner Search. I tried to combine the content of both of those books so to bring us a little reflection about this passage of the gospel that is about the blind man of Jericho. On this book, they do an explanation of some terms of this passage, the psychological views, how that can impact in our lives. And Joanna de Angelis is also going to supply us with some definitions and some thoughts about our spiritual condition. What is courage? What is attitude that surround us? So where we are right now. When we talk about the blind man of Jericho, I don't want you all thinking about this individual. This person has to be like a symbol for us, just a symbolical person. Let's put ourselves as this man, okay, throughout the whole night. So the spiritual condition, how we are right now, okay, many of us are in despair, in disbelief. If we are not right now, we have gone before, right? We have gone through low self-esteem. We might be pessimistic sometimes. We have like excessive worries, what I'm going to do tomorrow, what's going to be next year, what's going to be in the next minute. We can't stop, like settle, right? And what happens when we are in this emotional state? What happens to us? We start blocking our feelings, our ideas. If we're in a stress mode, in anxiety mode of many things to do, I don't know how to start. If we're pessimistic, we don't find any energy to do anything, right? And also, we find ourselves suffering from anguish. We get dissatisfaction. We are not happy with anything. We neglect ourselves many of times. When we are at low self-esteem, I'm not good enough. This is not for me. Who I think I am to get this? So all this start blocking us in a way that we don't see what is ahead. And that affects our attitude, and that will affect our courage. So we start having lack of courage towards life. And when I say courage, it's not the courage of, I can face anything, I can face these people at my work, I can face this and this issue with money. It's not that. It's our courage to find in ourselves the missing link that we're not able to find, right? So let's see what this passage has to teach us. Moving on, I want to show a video, which I'm hoping that this is going to work because it's a very touching message. When I watched this the first time, I never forgot, and every time I find myself in those spiritual conditions that I presented earlier, which it's not rare here, right? We always go through that. I look at this video, and that makes me a little more uplifted to keep going on and on. So let's see if we can make it to play. Hopefully, just pay attention to the details of this. Let's see, hopefully it plays. If not, we get to from YouTube. Let's see if I can make it happen here. Hold on. So Rafael, I think we're gonna need to put this in YouTube. If you can help me out, that would be great. Bear with me, guys. Just don't lose the link, okay? We're gonna get there. So basically, what I wanted to tell you tonight, it's a matter of how we deal with courage in our lives, how we find that strength. That sometimes we think that we have it, and not necessarily we do. What is that? What is to be a person with attitude? So this guy, this blind man from Jericho, is going to teach you a few lessons, and we're going to find ourselves on him quite a bit through this video. I want you guys paying attention in the people and his attitude. and the surroundings and the scenario. So after that, we're going to discuss each detail if that works, which I hope we do. Make it happen, right? Yeah, you just can copy the link. You can copy the link in here. I already copy and paste the link. Yeah, that one. Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Rafael. No, I have to find him myself, okay.
Hey, what's happening? What's going on?
Jesus of Nazareth. He's passing by.
Oh. Jesus! Oh, Jesus! Son of David, have mercy on me!
What do you want me to do for you?
I want to see again.
Then see. Your faith has made you well.
I can see. I can see. I can see.
Did you lose him?
Now let me find a way to get over here so we can come back. Just turn it off. Can you help me here, please? That one's not for the topic. Lazarus, we do another talk. That'll be too much, right? What do you guys think? Maybe it's a suggestion, huh? Maybe it's a suggestion for next topic about Lazarus? Resurrection? Okay. So, suggestion for you, not for me. So, pretty much, I want to ask you a question. I don't know why it's cutting off here. What did you notice about this video? What's going on in there? What's happening? There's a man, right, that was begging for help. He was blind. Everybody agrees, right? He was blind and people was passing around, right? Have you noticed anything around the people? What happened when Jesus was passing by? Anybody can? Yeah, whatever. Everything was moving, right? How many people stopped to help him? One individual, right? So the surroundings, his attitude, everybody was doing what? Taking care of their own issues, right? Everybody wants to see Jesus. Everybody wants to be closer to him. And the poor man was at the roadside begging for help. Everybody saw that, right? What people's attitude? Nobody stopped and say, wait a minute. There is a blind here. Let's get him first to Jesus. Let's carry him over, right? It's about me. I have to see Jesus. I have to see what he's there. I have to follow him. He was not only the blind man. We have to think about that. This Bartimaeus was not the only blind in that crowd. And that's going to be the meaning of our talk today. So let's see the passage, what it tells us. In Jericho, as Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many tried to stop him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted even more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called the blind man. "Cheer up, on your feet, he is calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. This is in Mark 10:46 to 52. Let's think about a few words here that we are going to study tonight. The crowd, we talk about the crowd here. Everybody saw the crowd in the movie? Okay, keep that in mind. The roadside where the blind man was. Jesus was passing in the path, and he was what? In the sides, right? Many people tried to stop him. That doesn't show in that video, but evidently we can say that people tried to stop him because it's all about me. I don't care what, if you're blind, whatever, I'm going to get to Jesus. Be quiet, it's my turn, right? I think we all would do this. Right? It's so intense. I mean, we can't even picture how would be our reaction when we see Jesus. So this is the interesting point here. He called him once, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Twice, if not more. This is what the passage tells us, but it could be more. Then Jesus stopped and said what? He could say what? "Guys, please go there and get this poor man. He's blind. How come you guys are not seeing him? Poor guy. How come this is happening? Call him." Now I ask you, don't you think that Jesus knew he was blind? Right, of course, right? By his spirit being so evolved, he knew exactly what it was in his surroundings, what's going on in there, and exactly which person was there in their mental and emotional and spiritual state. So what's wrong with Jesus that said to a blind man, "Call him"? You can call, but how he was going to do it? How he was going to see Jesus? He was blind. You guys agree with that? So what happened is that they called, "Cheer up, on your feet. He's calling you." Cheer up, on your feet. Well, they could say, "Open your eyes, let's go find Jesus." Cheer up, on your feet, meaning, hey, get up. That's the resources that you have. Right now, you can only get up under your own feet, right? So throwing his cloak aside, all this stuff that he was carrying on, which is going to see, this is a symbol, but we're going to see what it means. He jumped to his feet. Jumped because of what? He could have just like us, getting up our little chair and go peacefully walking and find Jesus. He was blind. So he had somehow to jump, whatever, and move it on. Let's see what else this passage has to teach us. So I don't know why it cuts every time I bring this here, but it's okay. I'm going to read to you. So at the top there, we have the blind man, where he says what? "Jesus, have mercy on me." Right? Everybody heard that in the video. So what is this blindness? The blindness that we're talking about, it's our inability to act. Let's see our spiritual condition, not necessarily our body condition. But of course, this man was blind, physiologically blind, but there was an ability to act. He was depending on others the whole time. He was begging, right? He was begging on the roadside. Everybody saw that. And we all go through a psychological blindness. It's not about physical, only our eyes, but we go through those moments in our lives where we don't see anything beyond where we are right now, where we don't see the light, where we don't see great things happening to us, where we don't see ourselves doing better. This is spiritual blindness, where we don't see and don't feel and refuse to feel sometimes Lord's love to us, God's mercy in our lives. So sometimes situations can get really, really, really difficult, and we won't be able to see in our spiritual condition. But this is what blindness means in this passage. It's not only the blindness of the body, but in our souls. So what was his profile? Let's see ourselves in the situation of this man. What is his profile? Well, he represents the soul needs. The need of love, the need of compassion, the need of self-guidance, the need of self-esteem, the need of love, etc., etc. So this is like the whole psychological profile of this person. And what he was doing in that roadside, he was waiting for somebody to help him out. He was waiting constantly for compassion. He was begging for people's attention as a being blind, not only of the body, but also the spirits. And how many of us have caught ourselves doing this? Sometimes we are in the midst of a struggle and, low self-esteem and things happening to us that I wish somebody could take me out of this. Nobody's listening to me. Where is God? So we all go through this in an emotional path sometimes. And that symbolizes the depressive states of the soul. At that moment, he didn't see anything better than he was at that time. He didn't see great things happen to him. He didn't even see the possibility of that ever change. And sometimes we go through those phases in life where things are so rough, where we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we think, this is it. This is the end. So this is our profile when we are blind for what? For our surroundings, for the love of God and His mercy and the work of these divine laws in our lives. Moving on, what was the roadside? So the symbol of the roadside where everything was happening, right? People were running, people were screaming, people were talking to each other, people were excited, Jesus is coming. So that's where it goes, our ideas, our desires, our dreams are what is passing by around us. And sometimes we don't give power to that. We prefer to stay what? Begging in that little roadside when everything is happening around us. That we could catch that link, that dream that we thought that was not for us, and say, wait a minute, maybe I still can conquer this. Wait a minute, I cannot allow anybody to say I'm not good enough. I can try. I can be better than this. So the state on the roadside was an absence of love for ourselves and for himself in that case. And at that moment, we can see ourselves saying, but this person has this and I don't. That's why I don't do this, because they have and I don't. We are always looking for excuses in our lives to not do what we're supposed to do in our own greatest behalf. It's not about us to put it, because this is really touching point to us. When we see things like this, okay, so I can do and happen and do whatever I want. It's not, this is the point. The point is that we cannot allow people around us or situations in our lives determine who we are and the powers that we carry in our spirit that has to be developed. So here is this man on the roadside where everything was happening, like abundance of life, this beautiful planet that we live, yes, with a few issues, but hey, that's what we have for now. That's our place for now. We have to take advantage of it and make it better that we can, the best that we can. So he was in what? In a depressive mood. Everybody agrees that somebody that was blind wouldn't be crying happiness, right? So we can see ourselves when we are blind, spiritually speaking, emotionally speaking, we are what? Under frustration, dissatisfaction, we are tired, we lack courage, we lack determination. All this surrounds us when we are in a blindness and an emotional state that we don't see great things ahead. So that's how he was at that moment when Jesus was passing by. So what happens later on? He starts to feel something different inside him. Once Jesus is passing by, Once he says, Son of David, have mercy on me, on his soul he's thinking, maybe there is a chance. Maybe I can reach him. Maybe I can get out of this state that I am. Maybe he can heal me. Wow, that's great. Because who was begging and depending on others and not seeing himself deserving anything better in life, he started to think about, wait a minute, I am a child of God with great possibilities in life. I can do great things. And there are great things in store for me. So he started to think, may have a chance. I may have a chance. I may have something that I can do. If I can only just go to Jesus, maybe things can change. And of course, we're going to see here, it's not about going to Jesus and be healed, because otherwise, he would have healed everybody in that time, right? This didn't happen. So there are specific reasons and things that happen in between that made those people to be healed. Not all of them was healed by Jesus. So now I ask you, don't you think he could heal everybody? Of course, right? His magnetic power is pure. He could heal any disease of the body, of the soul. But there is a little bit of an item that we are forgetting there. If the person was ready, if the person wanted to be. How much longer and how much effort that individual has put on to become into that state of healing. And this is our lives. This is the facts that we go through. This is our situations, not only in this life, but in many others, where we failed, where we succeed, where we fail, where we succeed, and things are going according to not our plan, but the God's plan and his laws in our lives, where we have to have that time of awakening and say, that's enough. I am a child of God. I know I have all these limitations in me. I know that I have things I have to get better on my soul. I know life can be difficult and I have to find the strength to conquer this. But at the same time, I am a son, a daughter of God, the Almighty, that can do great things in my life if I allow that to happen, right? So at that moment, he left that speech of incapacity, a poor me mentality. Nobody helps me. I'm not getting to Jesus because nobody is picking me up. Imagine ourselves in life this. I don't have that job because nobody gives me the position. I don't do this because that person doesn't let me do it. We have to do our part. And sometimes, guess what? It's not going to be what we want. Because not necessarily what we want is the best for us. But that doesn't mean that there are great things that's going to be happening. If we see, okay, this door is closed, what's next? But sometimes we try to destroy that door and move it on anyway without listening to that calling in our life. So the next thing we're going to think about is the crowd. The crowd was not only the people that were around him and pushing him and, all that mess that was going on. It's our doubts, our pains, our fears. Sometimes it's hard to face them. And at this time, this man faced all of this. He pushed away all the crowd of struggle, of self-pity, of, self-defeat. I said, hey, wait a minute. I can do better than this. I can get out of this state. But there was doubt. There was pain. There was struggle, like we all go through. But at some point, and this change in this state of mind that he went through to really be healed and find Jesus, he went through all this. It wasn't a process of, okay, Jesus is there, come here, help me out. He get up, somebody help and go and heal. All this happened in between for this man to be healed, spiritually as well. So he faced all the pains, all the fears. I'm not good enough. I can't do anything better. I was born like that. My family said I was this, and that's it for me. I can't do anything better. I am not good on this. Well, I have to agree with you. There are things we are not going to be good at it. but that doesn't mean we can't try. If you are afraid of a height, for instance, you might be a little struggle to be a pilot, right? But hey, who knows? Maybe me or you can face that fear, and maybe not. Maybe you can do other things, great things in other areas, but that doesn't mean that somebody or a situation in our lives have to define us. Nobody has the right, they can think that they have the right to define who we are, but ourselves. We placed limitations on us. I am at school, the teacher tells us, you are not good enough, you have no clue, you're not good in art, you're not good in math, you're this and that. Okay, they're going to say whatever they want. But that's going to be up to us to define if I'm not good in this, if I cannot try that, not anybody else. And this is what we are hoping to break tonight. Those traumas that we carry on, things that we listened when we were growing up. We have to break that pattern and say, wait, I can do better than this. Nobody. His inability, his poor mentality, because he could just go there and said, no questions asked. If Jesus wanted, he could just go there. Who is blind here? Let me heal everybody. Who is sick here? He could do that. And he didn't. That's people haven't done much effort. Or, believe it or not, some people do not want to get better. They want to be depending on others. They want to be calling their attention. They want to be the poor me mentality. So what God does, punish them? No. We make our choices, right? So here, at this passage, Jesus looked at that man and said, wait, okay, he's blind. I know he's blind. But he has legs. What does that mean? That means that we sometimes don't have everything that it takes for that, but we have to have something. So he didn't have the eyes, he had the sight, but he had legs. We have to use the resources that we have sometimes. We won't have everything, right? So in that time, Jesus probably thought, well, I see the man. I felt compassion. Don't you ever think that Jesus didn't feel compassion for that man. But he also wanted him to get out of that state, of that spiritual stage that he was, and say, wait a minute, I know he's blind, but I see his legs. And that's what God is doing to us. I know you're going through a lot, but you still have this resource. You still can do this. And sometimes we close our sight and say, no, no, no. I only do it if I get this. Just like kids. I only do it if I get this. But we have to try to check our surroundings. What other resources we have inside us to conquer that situation, to do that thing that we are expecting for years, or to go look for that dream, for that desire that somebody 20, 30 years ago said, you're not good enough, don't even try. We have to break that crowd of fear, of self-doubt, and say, maybe I can do it, right? What resources I have? Here it is for us just to think about it. So there is a process between the awakening state where he starts thinking that something might happen really well for his life or in his behalf, for getting up. Because many of us today, we already feel that seed inside us. I know that God is for me. I come to the Spirit Center. I do the gospel at home, or I like to listen to the talks. I like to read a good book. I wanted to be part of that. I want to go back to that path that I should never left. But there is a difference between coming and getting the message and seeing great things in our lives than actually getting up. And that's where we are going to try to think about it today from here, because we are already awake. Everyone here tonight is looking for something better. No questions. Look at the world outside. Brothers and sisters, look what's outside. We are much better. And I'm not saying at any time that we are superior than other people. No, but we are looking for this awakening mood here. So it's the first step, but we have to break the crowd to check what's Jesus' attitude, what's God's attitude, what's the higher evolved spirits that care for us attitude. We all have one spiritual mentor dedicated to our lives. And sometimes we just put our headsets and not even care about what he or she is saying or trying to inspire us to do. So there is a difference between awake and getting up. So once this man start calling Jesus, when he start calling Jesus, he's getting what? The awakening state. But once he decides to get up on his feet, somebody helped. Yes, somebody gave him a hand, right? And that's how it's life. People are going to be in our path. We don't evolve by ourselves. Right? People are here to help us. We live in a society that somebody's going to give a push. God is going to place people in our lives to help us in the few struggles that we have. Yes, he uses people. But at the same time, we are the ones that are going to decide to get up in our feet than anybody else. Person can give us money, can help us to get a job, can help this and that, but we are the ones getting up in our feet. We cannot walk through somebody else's feet. Is that right? So the consciousness of the divine laws, he has the perception of the love and mercy. Once he got into that stage, he started to realize, wow, I'm getting healed. I'm feeling free of all that struggle that I was going through. And that doesn't mean that all the problems went away, because we have a tendency to confuse being free and having a happy life with a life with no issues. And that's not the point. Lives are going to have trials, tribulations. That was not my talk. That was Jesus saying to us, I know what you guys are going through. I know it's not going to be easy. But just remember one thing. I conquered the world. So it wasn't easy for him. He didn't come in a in a pool of petals and perfumes, right? It wouldn't be easy for us. But that doesn't mean we can see the healing. We cannot free ourselves from many things and reconnect with ourselves, with our essence, with the great seeds of God in us. That's the point. It's not the getting up here. It's not that the guy got up, okay, I can see now life is perfect and beautiful. No. Because then what happened, what our friend said, Jesus was going to ask you, what do you want me to do? And at the end he said what? Your faith has healed you. And beyond, he would say, go and don't make any more mistakes like that, right? So that's the point here. We think about the healing, the freedom, not having a perfect life because we are not in that state yet. But life can be better. We can recover our strength, our courage, our attitude. This is the point of tonight. We think about this, what we can improve. Let's get the mood of a New Year's, right? Year 2018. And that's been 2018 years that this man called Jesus has come to us. It's calling us. Imagine he is calling us. Not only this blind man. All of us are in a certain level of spiritual blindness somehow. And Jesus is calling us. So, moving on. Just to summarize where we saw this transition of this man. So, at that time, when everybody said, get up, he's calling you, right? In that movie, he threw off his like heavy vest, which was the, all that struggle, all that fear of a not good enough person. And he jumped to his feet. He used what he could use at that moment. We can't have everything. We are not going to have all the resources to do this and that or to heal ourselves, but we have something. So he used what he had, and that was the path from victimization to become a person of courage and attitude. And that's the state we have to start getting ourselves out of it. Of victimization, of stagnation, of great, I go dissented, I go to my church, I listen to all that, but nothing changed in my life. Well, we have to go a little bit up. There's a little bit more movement in there that we have to take care of it. So this man let go of victimization, self-pity, and sees himself capable of doing things. Doesn't mean that he's going to be able to do everything, but he was like, you know what? I may not be good at that, but I can try this. Well, let me try this again. 20 years ago, I tried, it was a failure, but well, never know. And sometimes it's not for us. And we have to move it on. But he started to see the poor me mentality, said, no, let me push this behind me and try to see things ahead of me. He opened himself to the love that Christ represents to us. When Christ went through, he didn't have doubt. Oh, is this man good? Is he really the Lord? Is he really good at healing people? He had no questions. He knew that if he could, get to walk through Christ, he would be healed. At this point here, when he started to get up, he didn't have questions. And we shouldn't have questions of the God's love in our lives. As much as harshness and difficulties we're going through, that question we shouldn't have anymore. Because that is open our hearts to the love that at that moment Christ represented to him and to all of us. So he faced the crowd, all the issues that we discussed, with the resources that he had. He didn't have much, right? What a blind person begging for help has in life. Other than the spiritual strength that he was trying to recover, nothing. We can assume and we can infer that he was what? That he was poor too, materially poor, right? If he wasn't, was a lot of royalty in helping him out, but that was not the case. And before his love, he recovered himself, he faced his fears with faith without psychological excuses. This is the excuses that we all do to us. What about if I do this and it doesn't work? What about if nobody's there to help me? What about, no excuses. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to get out of this. That was his mentality. And today we might be facing an issue, a difficult trial, that we can't possibly think how this can be solved. But he does. But for that, we have to trust. And sometimes it's not be solved completely, because you can say, well, that's great then. So if somebody is born without a leg, there's no way to that come back. You're right. Not a material leg. A physical leg in the body is not going to just, that person has to be in their life, lessons to learn, experience to go through to be without that leg. But there are a few resources there, right? There's some, what's the name of that you put? Yes. And things that we can find, or the person can develop some other strength that not necessarily the leg is going to be too much. He can find his strength. We see this all the time. That just go to the internet, it's all there. People with a lot of trials and difficulties in the body or mentally difficult is just doing things. So there is no excuse for us tonight. So here, he faces fear, and of course we have to think about each one of us is in a spiritual level, is in a spiritual state of strength and courage, and this is respectfully that I say. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we cannot start trying to see what's there for me, what things inside me I can manipulate and change my perspective of seeing myself doing great, of seeing myself stronger, of seeing myself pushing behind the words that I heard when I was a child, that I was not good enough, that my brother, my sister was better than me. Who proved that other than myself? It's not about competing with others. It's about what we find inside ourselves, our own strength. So to wrap up here, Bartimaeus came to Jesus, right? So he got up, people give a little push, right? He got up, he went what? Jumping, right? He could crash himself on the floor, like he didn't care. He didn't care much, he just went. Once he got up, he couldn't care less for the crowd. He didn't care if he was going to fall again. He just went. And that's how light is. Once you see the light of the tunnel, you don't know how you're going to get there. You just have to know you're going to. How? Sometimes, many times, not up to us. We just have to know that we do our part and let God do his part. That's all it takes, right? Easy? No, but it's possible. So then what our friend says, what Jesus did, he could instantly heal him, right? Great, you came to me, here it is, your vision back. Thank you very much, go to your home. He asked a very intriguing question. What do you want me to do? Now, that's funny, right? Doesn't Jesus know what this man needed, what he wanted? Well, obviously, right? He wants to see. Does everybody disagree? First thing he wants is what? To see again, right? Why Jesus ask, what do you want me to do? What question is that? If Jesus would come up here to us, let's imagine, right? Because I'll probably be the first passing out. But if he would come here, imagine that God says, I'll give you 30 seconds of Jesus. Not even that, because we probably will all die. But 10 seconds by his light, 10 seconds of Jesus is going to stop a piece of knowledge tonight. If he would show up just here, which doesn't mean that he is not, but let's just materialize Jesus here. If he would ask each one of us, what do you want me to do? I probably don't know what to answer. Do you? It's hard, right? Well, how about paying that credit card? How about... We would come up with many things that, all right, you have 10 seconds. So Jesus wanted him to realize and he wanted to find out if he really knew what he wants, right? If he was using his free will, if he was able to put all his knowledge, all his spiritual strength to this transformation. Jesus wanted to know that because he knew what this guy wanted, but he wants to find out from himself what he wanted to do. What do you want me to do for you? What do you want from me? And that's what the mentors, the good spirits, God is asking us, what do you want me to do? It doesn't matter if it's only material things, but we have to have a purpose in life. What do you want from God? What type of help we want? We want everything. We don't focus on one thing at a time. So let's do this exercise. I love to give exercise and the other activity we have there. This week, if Jesus is coming in Christmas, right? Great. It's his birth. Let's ask stuff for him. if he asks you, what do you want me to do? We have to have an answer. At least one thing that is pushing us harder, we have to have that answer, right? So he wanted to know, what do you want me to do? And now, guys, imagine Jesus here analyzing us. You would probably pass out, right? Imagine Jesus looking into your eyes. What do you want from me? Can you guys imagine? I can't. So Jesus analyzed the sick man, looking at his spiritual strength, looking what he was thinking. And that's not because it's him. It could be anybody else. So I got a sign. I'm lost in time here, but we're going to get there. So, Lord, let me see again. We have to pay attention that look is different than see. So he told Jesus, I want to see again. And that doesn't mean the eyes only. It means the spiritual vision. I want to see you again. I want to see and feel your love again. So the healing with magnetic power, pure, he recovered his sight. So he said, your faith has healed. Your sight started to open, and this man chose a new path of following Jesus. That doesn't mean following the crowd, follow what Jesus said, but hey, from now on, my life is going to be different. From now on, I'm a new being. That was the sight that opened. So going back to from 2000, no, to one, before Christ, whatever, 33 years before, after Christ, everything starts in the mind. 2018, us today, this week, we have a well-being exercise. Things are falling apart in my life, but I'm going to get out of this, all right? We have to I found my path. No. The spiritual strength, the process of adding that courage inside is an inner process. It's not a show off. Because then it comes out vanity, and we are not looking for that. We are looking for an inner attitude, an inner courage feeling that we can develop within ourselves. And to end this year and this lecture, we have to think from now on, things that we are fearing to do it. From I can't to I can. I possibly can do this. I'm not talking about fears or phobias, not of that, guys. If you're afraid of airplanes, whatever, I'm not saying, no. Thinking about things inside us that we all know that we could do a little effort to change the I can't to I'm trying, not one day I'll try. I'm going to attempt to do this. I might fail, but don't think you're going to fail. I'm going to attempt my best. And change it from the I can't without even trying for the I can from now on. And when we have the gospel in our heart, the courage instantly comes to our conscience. Because it's not about reading the Bible or reading the gospel or going to a temple, to a church and listen and listen and listen and be really intellectually alive and knowing everything about Christ's words. No, it's about that deep inside, what we are taking there for us. Once we incorporate this knowledge, this teaching in our soul, we start feeling stronger and more courageous to face only one being, ourselves. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas.
Sabrina, I just have one thing, maybe 10 things to say, but